I've always found comfort in late-night drives. There's something about the quiet roads and empty streets that calms my mind. I'm a retired mechanic, worked in a small garage in Montana for over 40 years. Now I live alone in a modest lakeside cabin, just me and my cat, Nori. The cabin is too big for just one person, but after my husband, Dean, passed away, I couldn't bring myself to leave it. My daughter lives across the country, and since the heart attack took Dean 3 years ago, it's just been me and Nori. One night, after fixing up an old boat engine, I decided to go for a short drive around the lake. The road loops back to my cabin in about 10 minutes. The air was chilly, and Nori sat curled in the passenger seat like she always does. I've driven that loop more times than I can count, but on my way back, something caught my attention. I glanced up at the small attic window above the front porch, the one that looks out from Dean's old study. For a second, I thought I saw a shadow move. I hit the brakes and stared. That room had been shut for years. I kept the door closed. Couldn't bring myself to go in. My first instinct wasn't fear, it was rage. If someone had broken in, they picked the wrong house. I jumped out of the car, heart pounding, and rushed inside, grabbing the flashlight from the kitchen drawer. I climbed up to the attic. It was empty. Exactly as I'd left it. Nothing disturbed. Still, I searched every corner and crevice, but there was nothing. I stood there for a long time, feeling ridiculous, but something in my gut told me I hadn't imagined it. The next night, I was woken up by Nori hissing, a sound she rarely makes. I sat up, listening. That's when I heard it, the creaking of old floorboards coming from the attic. Now, the cabin makes noises all the time, but this was rhythmic. Deliberate. Like someone pacing. Directly above my bedroom, I thought about grabbing my late husband's hunting knife from the drawer, but I didn't want to overreact. I told myself it was the wind, or maybe a mouse. Still, I took the flashlight again and climbed up to check. Nothing. No sign of anything. But the tension in my chest didn't go away. The next evening, when I came downstairs to make tea, I found the front door slightly open. I know I locked it. I always lock it. That's when the panic started to set in. I called the local sheriff's office and explained the situation. 2 deputies came out, searched the place top to bottom. Polite, but clearly skeptical. Told me to call if anything else happened. That night was the worst. Unable to sleep, I went back up to the attic. I don't know why, maybe to put an end to the unease. But when I opened the door, I stopped cold. There were old clothes strewn across the floor, Dean's flannel shirts and jeans. I had boxed them up years ago. They were supposed to be in the crawlspace. My stomach dropped, then I saw her. A woman stood near the corner, facing me. I couldn't make out her face clearly, but she wasn't anyone I knew. Too young. Too tall to be mistaken for anyone from my memories. I had never seen her before in my life, frozen in place. I didn't think, I just charged. She turned and fled, down the narrow stairs, through the front door. By the time I got outside, she was gone. I scoured the yard with a flashlight, Nori at my heels, but found nothing. I didn't sleep that night. Didn't sleep for weeks after. I started hearing faint footsteps overhead again. Every creak, every groan of the house had me reaching for the knife. I even started leaving the porch light on all night. I considered asking my cousin in Boise to come stay, but I couldn't do it. I've always been the type to face things head on, but it wasn't over. One evening, I sat in the living room reading when I saw something outside. A figure, standing near the dock, looking directly at me through the window. It was her again. I froze. My breath caught. This time I did grab the knife and stormed outside. She was still there, just a dark silhouette in the moonlight. Watching me, I shouted, "Raise the blade." She didn't move until I took a step forward. Then she turned and ran into the trees. I followed, but the darkness swallowed her. I never found her. Haven't seen her since. But I know she'll come back. I feel it. I keep the knife on my nightstand now. Nori still sleeps beside me, ears perked at every sound. I'm trying to stay strong, but living with this kind of dread every night is exhausting.
I work part-time for an event photography company, which means I'm constantly traveling between venues, often driving home late into the night. Most of my evenings are spent hauling heavy camera gear in and out of buildings, and driving a bulky van that the company insists I use. It's not a terrible gig, but the hours are brutal, and it's definitely not where I thought I'd be at this point in life. By the time I get home, I'm either too hyped on energy drinks to sleep or I crash so hard that I don't wake up for half a day. One night around 2:15 a.m., I was finally on my way home in my own car, grateful not to be stuck in that clunky van. I realized I'd gone hours without food and I was starving. I'd also had 2 cans of Monster back to back, so sleep wasn't coming anytime soon. There's a small 24-hour diner just off the coastal highway, about 10 minutes from my place. It's usually my go-to for a late-night snack. I don't even like diner food that much. I just get this weird urge for curly fries every now and then. I figured a greasy plate of comfort food might help me wind down. When I pulled into the lot, there were a few other cars, which surprised me. It was a Tuesday night, after all. I ordered from the drive-thru, and while waiting, I noticed something strange. There was a rusty old station wagon parked at the edge of the lot, nearly hidden behind a hedge. Its windows were darkly tinted, and it didn't seem like anyone was inside. The diner had stopped dine-in service at midnight, so there was no reason a car should be parked back there. At first, I figured someone might just be eating in their car, which I've done myself. But something about how hidden it was made me uneasy. Still, I brushed it off. With my food in hand, I started driving but didn't want to go straight home. I was too awake and needed somewhere to sit and eat. I live near a clifftop park that overlooks the ocean. It's a peaceful place and totally deserted at night. There's a road that snakes up the hill and leads to a small parking loop at the top. The park gates close at dusk, but the access road stays open for maintenance vehicles, so it's easy to get to the overlook without needing to walk through any brush or trails. Back in high school, my friends and I used to hang out there all the time, talking, listening to music, or just staring out at the sea. I hadn't been up there in years, and the idea of revisiting it gave me a sense of comfort. When I pulled into the lot, it was completely empty, just a gravel patch surrounded by eucalyptus trees. Before I could shut off the engine, headlights appeared in my rearview mirror. Another car was pulling in. My stomach dropped. It was the same station wagon from the diner. I was absolutely certain. Same dents, same cracked bumper, same off-kilter license plate. I parked farther away and shut the engine. The dread set in immediately. Were they following me? The windows on their car were still tinted, and there was no movement inside. I rolled down my window slightly. There was no music, no lights, no sound at all. A minute passed. Then 2. Still nothing. I tried to calm myself. Maybe they were just out for fresh air like me. Still, it was unnerving given the hour. Not wanting to be alone, I FaceTimed my cousin, Dylan, who lived just 10 minutes away. I told myself if he didn't answer, I'd just leave. But he picked up. Turns out he'd been gaming and was wide awake. I asked him to come hang for a bit, and he agreed without hesitation. As I waited, I kept an eye on the station wagon. It didn't move an inch. I tried to convince myself it was nothing. When Dylan finally pulled into the lot, I felt a wave of relief. We got out and started up the path toward the overlook. Before the lot disappeared from view, I turned around for one last glance. All 4 doors of the station wagon were open. 4 men stepped out. They stood still, just looking at each other. No talking. No movement. Just blank stares. I nudged Dylan. He looked back and saw them too. We kept walking up the trail, letting the trees hide the lot from view. Alarm bells were ringing in my head, but Dylan seemed to think they were just there to chill like we were. At the top, the view was as breathtaking as I remembered. The crashing waves below, the moonlight hitting the water. It was the kind of thing that made your problems feel small. We sat on a stone ledge, eating and talking. For a while, things felt normal. Then we heard laughter. And voices. Getting closer, we turned to see 3 guys walking up the path toward us, passing around what looked like a joint. They seemed relaxed, maybe too relaxed. One of them, who had tattoos up both arms and a pierced eyebrow, gave us a nod and asked if we wanted to join. We both declined politely. One of the others scoffed and muttered something under his breath. I couldn't help myself. I asked, "Weren't you guys just at the diner?" The guy with the joint froze. The smile dropped from his face. So did the smiles on the other 2. They just stared at us. Silent. And that's when I remembered. There were 4 guys in that car. Only 3 were here. My heart jumped. Then the tattooed guy broke the silence. Said he worked night shifts and had just finished up. He pulled up his hoodie to reveal a diner uniform. I think he did it because he could tell we didn't believe him. He claimed they came to the cliff every night after work to unwind and smoke. That calmed me for a second, but not really. Something about the whole situation felt off. We decided to leave. As we were heading back, Dylan suddenly pointed into the trees beside the trail. There was the 4th guy, half hidden in the shadows, holding something. I couldn't see what it was, but he stepped forward as soon as he saw us looking. That was enough. We ran. I could hear them behind us, footsteps pounding the gravel trail. We didn't stop, didn't look back. When we reached the cars, we jumped in and tore out of there. In my rearview, I saw them running for their car. But we had a head start. I didn't want to go straight home and risk being followed, so I called Dylan and told him to meet up near his place instead. We circled around, met in a quiet neighborhood, and made sure we weren't followed. Still shaking, Dylan showed me a picture he'd taken when they weren't paying attention. Clear shots of the guys' faces. The next day, since I had time off, we went back to the diner to report the guy. We found a younger worker and showed him the photo. His reaction chilled me to the bone. He told us the guy in the picture used to work there. His girlfriend had been a waitress and broke up with him a few months ago. He hadn't taken it well, started harassing her, even stalking her after shifts. He was fired, the police got involved, and a restraining order was filed. Apparently, he'd been violating it, camping out in the parking lot. Waiting. I don't know why he followed me that night. Maybe I looked like someone else. Maybe he was just looking for a target, but he's unhinged. And he's still out there. It's only been a week, but I haven't gone back to that diner. Or the cliff. And I sure as hell keep my doors locked and eyes peeled every night. It's been a while, so forgive me if I miss a few details. I grew up in Maple Hollow, Oregon, a quiet town where excitement was rare. In high school, my friends and I used to kill time by sneaking into old, abandoned buildings. I didn't realize how popular that kind of thing was until years later. Apparently, lots of people are into urban exploration. For us, it was just a way to shake off boredom. There was one place we visited more than once, an abandoned funeral chapel just outside of town, tucked into a wooded area off Stonebridge Road. We'd been there a few times before, and it always gave us the creeps, which, of course, made it our favorite spot. One chilly November evening, 6 of us decided to go again. Me, Dylan, Ivy, Cam, Rory, Liv, and Mira. The air had that sharp autumn bite, and the trees were bare, making everything look skeletal. The chapel was surrounded by a rusted fence that stood about 8 feet tall. We climbed over like usual. The main doors were long sealed, so we used a side window that hung crooked on its hinges. Inside, the first thing you noticed was the floor, or the fact that it was completely missing. It looked like someone had ripped out the floorboards decades ago. All that remained was compacted dirt, and in the middle was a crumbling staircase leading down to the basement. That's where we always went. The basement had 3 rooms, 2 open doorways and 1 actual door that barely latched. As usual, we started in the large open room. There wasn't much there, a few ruined armchairs, some moldy boxes, and a broken wooden table. Cam was already a little drunk and wouldn't stop talking. We had to hush him over and over. It felt like his voice echoed down every hallway. I always felt safer in a group, and being with 6 people made it easier to laugh off the unease. We hung out for a while, just talking, passing a flask around, maybe even playing music from someone's phone. I can't say for sure. Then, out of nowhere, it happened. A door slammed, loud, violent, sudden. I jumped. We all did. Everything went still. I thought maybe one of us had bumped into something, but we were all in the same room, nowhere near the door. Without hesitating, Ivy, Rory, and Kim sprinted for the stairs. That left me, Dylan, and Mira. The 3 of us were always the brave ones, though I'm not sure if it was courage or just stubborn curiosity. After a few long moments of silence, we moved toward the room where the door had slammed shut. My heart was pounding, but we pushed it open together. It was a small room with a single dressing table, the mirror cracked down the middle. What stopped us cold were the red smears on the glass. At first, I thought it was graffiti or paint, but as I stepped closer, I realized the truth. It was still wet. Sticky. Fresh. I felt my skin crawl. It meant that someone, or something, had been there recently. Then we saw the photo. Sitting on the table was a worn, sepia-toned photograph of a woman in a veil and gown, maybe from the 1940s. She had a faint smile, but something about it was all wrong. Her eyes looked empty, almost resentful. The longer I stared, the more distorted her face began to seem. Just then, a sound came from behind us, not the door, but from the large room we just left. It was soft at first, then clearer, a dragging sound, like something heavy being pulled across the floor. That was it. Dylan grabbed Myra's arm. We didn't even speak, we just ran, back up the stairs. Through the window. Over the fence. We didn't say a single word until we were back on the street. Only when we stopped to catch our breath did I dare look back, and I wish I hadn't. Just for a moment, in the window we'd climbed through, I saw a silhouette. Tall. Still. Watching. I tell myself it was a trick of the light, or maybe just leftover fear, but I'm not sure I believe that. None of us ever went back together after that night. We drifted apart, as people do. Years later, I drove past Stonebridge Road out of curiosity, but the chapel was gone, completely torn down. Just a slab of concrete where it once stood. I never found any history about that place. No records. No news stories. But I'll always wonder about that red reflection, and if we interrupted something that night that was never meant to be seen.